Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Educator Colin's Snap channel. How are you doing? So, today I want to talk about matchmaking and why I think it's kind of ruining Marvel Snap. Now, yeah, got a depressing ish video for you guys today, but I just kind of want to get into it and not really dilly dally on what I feel is an important part of the game and the game modes. So, I saw this tweet from Eggs for Sale, prominent streamer, just kind of responding to the fact that Code Deco Snap, those group of players, they hit rank 1,000 on their account. And she was saying this is ridiculous, not in a good way, even though it's an incredible feat. It just kind of showcases how broken the matchmaking is. And it's kind of due to them being so high rated, they can't get players, so they're mostly fighting bots. And it's a lot easier to climb versus bots, so they just keep climbing, keep growing, and since they keep climbing, no one can catch up to them. So they're only going to get bots and they can just keep grinding for infinity, can't get any other opponents. And because of that, it's possible for them to hit rank 1,000. Now, she's saying this should be a red flag. And why isn't it being discussed? And isn't it disheartening for them and also the players themselves? Where's the challenge? And I have to say, here I am to discuss it. I definitely agree with a lot of what you're saying. I do think that being able to hit 1,000 is not really like an issue, but it's a symptom to some of the more core issues with the matchmaking. Now, for me myself, I'm currently rank 664, which is also like pretty ridiculous. And should this be possible? And if you think it should be possible, is it a healthy system? So the reason why this can happen is because our internal MMRs are just so high that it's very hard for us to get players. Even though I still see some players, a lot of my opponents will be bots, and they just aren't as good as players. They don't have access to Series 5 cards, so I don't see Shuri, I don't see Thanos. And because of that, it's a lot easier to climb. They snap predictively, and you just keep climbing. Now, the issue here is that this starts happening very early in the season. It's not that, oh, you climb to a certain point, now you see bots. It's all about the internal MMR. And because of last season, my internal MMR was so high, even while I was ranked 70, I was getting mostly bots. Even at the immediate of the reset, I was still finding mostly bots because that internal MMR doesn't really change after a reset. Your rank may change. I went from whatever 600 to 70, but the internal MMR didn't really fluctuate that much. So I still fought mostly bots. It was very easy to climb back to infinite, and a lot of other players had the same experience. KM Best also was able to get infinite in a day. Code Deco, the people that got 1,000, were also able to get infinite in a day. I was also able to get infinite in under a day. So it's just not very balanced that some players you get the reset, they're struggling, the matchmaking is so hard, and then other players they get the reset, immediate infinite because it's all bots, it's very easy, and it doesn't really feel like the right system, really feel like a rewarding system, especially when you're trying so hard to hit infinite and the other players can just do it like that. I did make a video about it earlier, but this is more of a follow up, just kind of explaining in more detail how it just sucks for everyone. That one I was really covering high MMR. Here I kind of want to cover everyone's experience. So, what am I supposed to do, right? I played my main, it's all bots. I can't get good games. Well, a lot of people suggested that I play on an alternate. So, I've been doing that recently, right? I've made a new account, started climbing up, got to like around 400 collection level, rank 70 or so. And then I got this experience today where I'm just a casual rank 45 player and I queue into uh Chachinos. I believe that's how you say his name. I maybe butchered it. But this is a popular Brazilian streamer. He's infinite, rank 105. He's collection level 3000. And I'm collection level 425. And I'm just like, what's going on here? Why can I play this player at 425? It doesn't really seem fair. I have 0 pool 3 cards. I have no real ways to really contest the metagame. Right after this player, I fought a Thanos gamer. Right after this player, I fought Get Wrecked, who is infinite 120. He's collection level 4000. It just doesn't really feel like the matchmaking is working for a new player. Collection level 400, has no series 3s. Just doesn't really feel like they're going to be having a good time. So I kind of want to talk about all the stages of a player and what their experience is like, just to get a feeling. So first off, I want to say that the early player experience is a lie. It's straight up a lie. You're basically fighting bots nonstop early. You basically fight bots till around rank 30, and even past that, you still fight bots. So it's just a bot inflated system, and the bots play to lose. So they don't actually want to win. These bots will do plays that force them to lose. So it might look close if you're new and I didn't know when I started, but they will do plays that will make them lose if they can do it. And that creates a sense of false confidence. You think you're really good at the game, you're having fun, you're winning, but you don't know that you're not even playing humans. The bots look like a human, especially if you don't know the game at the beginning and you can't tell, oh, this is a bot. And you're just winning the 50-50 flips. Your opponents are always losing them for some reason, but you're not really thinking about it that much. You're just like, ooh, I'm good. Ooh, I made the right call. But the bots just make you lose. You get a sense of false confidence, and you don't really learn the game. You can pretty much play any list, and you'll do well with it because the bots won't allow those lists to do poorly. So everything works. And it's just a weird feeling coming out of that and getting into the real game where you're playing humans. Now your decks need to make sense. Now your strategies need to be powerful, but you're so used to playing the bots that let you win that you don't actually really know how to play the game. So I just want to say the early experience is a lie. It doesn't even matter, and it doesn't help people long run. Now, I want to talk about the early skilled players experience. I want to say that that is pretty bad. I would say if you're an average or bad or not very skilled player, it's a fine experience for you. It might even be good, right? But for skilled players, people that do well, very familiar with card games, that experience is not particularly good. So the early game system has changed. What used to be is that you would climb or you'd have a collection level, and your collection level would really dictate who you'd play against. So if you're in pool 1, you'd only play against pool 1. Pool 2, you play against pool 2, etc., etc. And that was fine. But they changed it now where credits will now count to your collection level. So where this really matters is the breakpoint between 600 and above. If you were under 600 collection level, you could really only fight people that are also under 600 collection level. So what this allowed you to do is linger around 594, which is the area where you would get your last card above 600. You could just linger there until you max your credits, and then you could jump all the way from 594 all the way to like 900, 1,000, and that would help alleviate some of the limitations in your collection. You would get a ton of new cards, and those cards would maybe help you get a deck that could compete against the higher level opponents you were playing against. But now with this system, you can't really hoard your credits. Those credits will count towards your collection level anyways, and if those credits mean that you're above 600 by their account, now you're going to be fighting against anyone. That's why I could fight against a collection level 3,000 player without a single pool 3 card, because I only played this alternate account casually, so it just keeps getting credits, and I don't have the boosters to spend those credits. So I'm limited by boosters on this account, not by the credits. And because of that, even though I can't use my credits, I'm still getting punished for holding them. So regardless of that, is that really a fair system? Should players not be able to hoard their credits? Should they be punished by having, thousands of credits? Should that be something that's baked in? The experience after 600 is already so punishing. You fight people that are so high in collection, that have all the cards. Should it be okay that because I've passed this arbitrary number, now I can fight someone who's collection level 4,000? I don't really think that's reasonable regardless. So regardless of whether the credits should count to your collection level or not, I just don't think that someone at 600 collection levels should even be possible to fight someone at 3,000 or 4,000 or whatever it is, right? There should be some type of limiter, 600 to maybe 1,000, 1,500, something like that. There should be some way that people who are still getting accounts should be matched up into each other. It shouldn't be like 600 versus 1,000 or 600 versus 2,000, the 650 versus 3,000, 700 versus 4,000. Like, it shouldn't be that way, in my opinion, when I think of optimal matchmaking. So I just don't think it's a very reasonable system. Now, the second way that the early skilled player base experience is bad is that once you reach Vibranium rank, which is 70 plus, the matchmaking now will try to use your eternal MMR and mostly ignore collection level. So if you're under 70, there's a good chance you might be playing people that are around your collection level. But once you hit Vibranium, now you can fight infinite players. So I had both experiences, right? Like, my collection level, since I had a lot of credits, was above 600, and then my rank was above 70. So because of that, now I can fight infinite players with 3,000 collection level. And it just, once again, doesn't really seem reasonable for the matchmaking to assume that this is a balanced match. I don't have any pool 3s. I don't have any pool 4s. I shouldn't. Why am I playing against Thanos? It doesn't really seem like this is good matchmaking design from Second Dinner here. So I just don't think this is a reasonable thing that Second Dinner should be okay with, that these scenarios could happen. Now you could say, oh, Collins, you're a very skilled player. It's fine for you to play against this. But other new players will be able to hit rank 70. Like, good players should be able to hit rank 70. I have a chance because I've played the game and I know what I could see. I know the cards that I could be playing against. But new players that manage to hit this rank are going to be seeing nonstop, this is the first time you've seen this card every single match for a long time, because they're just going to be seeing new cards they've never seen, new experiences, and it's not going to be fun, right? And that's the problem in all of this. You don't want to drive new players away. You don't want them to be like, ooh, what the hell happened? I now have no chance. Every game is a loss. I feel really bad. What am I to do? And I do get this response on YouTube and streams and stuff like that. They just say, "Oh, something happened. Now I lose every game. This game isn't fun anymore. Can you help me, Collins?" And I just have to go, "Are you above 600? Oh, I can't help you." Because like I know that they're screwed, and that just feels really wrong to me. So I just hope they look at this and really reevaluate how they want matchmaking to feel and how should it be fun for the players, right? And it just doesn't seem reasonable to me right now. Now I want to talk about where the experience is good. Where the experience is good. There are some good brackets to be in. Now, I would say this is really for not skilled players, people that are very casual with the games. They're not really climbing. I would say that is where the experience is good because you're either fighting bots that let you win because we talked about it, right? As you're if you're under 30 or so, the bots just let you win. They don't really they don't really care to win. They just do whatever they can do. Or you're fighting players that are around your skill level, right? So you're going to be fighting players that aren't particularly knowledgeable about the game, aren't really try harding to climb, play whatever they want, don't really care. So the matches are fun, they're interesting. You see cards that you don't normally see all the time, and it's not as try hard serious as it is. And then you're not going to be seeing series 4 or 5 bombs. So you might see some series 4 or 5 cards, but they're not going to be the crazy ones. So you might see like a Sentry or whatever. But if they have Thanos and they're playing Thanos, if they have Shuri and they're playing Shuri, they're not going to be in this bracket. They're going to move on. So you're not going to be seeing that. So because of that, you can play leisurely. You can test whatever build you like. And it's fun. You just play and you win, or you play and you see cool stuff, and people are just try-harding and or not try-harding. They're just having fun, doing whatever. I would say that's where the experience is good. It feels fun. You're playing the game casually and you enjoy your time. But I would say if you're like an average player, that experience doesn't exist, right? If you're just trying to climb, you're trying to make infinite, and you hit rank 70, well, now you're going to be in the pool with the infinite players. And the thing is, not a lot of people reach infinite. Only 1 to 4% apparently reach infinite. But the people that are ranked 70 have to play those players, right? They have to play the infinite players. And is that reasonable that the people trying to hit infinite have to fight the 1 to 4% tryhards that have crazy decks? Is that a test? Is that a reasonable test to have for the people? Oh, don't fight amongst yourselves. Fight the tryhards that have already done it over and over. It just doesn't really seem like it feels good for the players. If you're just playing, you're ranked 80 or something, and everyone has an infinite card back that you're playing against, it's going to feel frustrating. Like, I want to make infinite, but my opponents are all, it's stacked against me. My opponents are all people who've done it before, running optimized deck lists and know how to play perfectly, or very well into the matchup. So it just doesn't feel good because you would imagine that, oh, if you're ranked 70, you'll play someone also ranked 70 or around that. And that's not always the case, right? If you're ranked 80, you should also be fighting someone who's ranked 80 and around that. If you're ranked 90, you should be fighting someone who also cares to make infinite, right? It's weird that the people trying to make infinite are fighting people that don't care if they already infinite. They don't care to play that. There's not that pressure, but you're the ones who have that pressure, and they likely are going to be very skilled and will be taking the cubes away from you. So it just seems weird that that's the case, and I just don't think it's reasonable. I just don't think it's a good player experience. Now, as you climb, you get to a point where your only opponents are full collection players that are only playing meta decks, right? As you're climbing, you're going to be fighting people that start in the beta, or you're going to be fighting people that spend a lot of money and they have full collections or a lot of the good meta cards. And because of that, it's just impossible or very hard to play casually. You can't really think to yourself, "Oh, I got a new card. Let me try that." "Oh, I got, a kingpin or something. Let me try to put that in a lot of my decks and see if it works." "Oh, I got Luke Cage. Let me try and see if I put that in a lot of your decks." You just can't do that, because if you try to experiment, you get crushed by the meta decks. It's a Shuri Thanos every time. So you can't really try anything cool. You're kind of forced to play that one comp that maybe works for you, or that one strategy that can deal with the meta, and nothing else you can try really works well, especially if you don't have experience playing those archetypes. So if you're trying to climb your average, you made a good run with a deck, but now you don't really want to play that deck and you want to try something else. It's just very hard to do that. There's no casual mode. It's just, here's my rank. I wager my cubes. I hope it works out for me. So that kind of experience is just hard to really get that feeling of, okay, I want to play and have fun and try something new. You like, if you're trying to climb, or if you have climbed, that experience is kind of gone. You have to try. You have to try hard. You have to use your meta decks, or you're just gonna get crushed. You're fighting infinite players that have really good cards, and they're gonna crush you. So that experience isn't fun, right? And it always comes back to that point. The player experience through the matchmaking, I think, is not very good. So let's move on, right? You've hit infinite, finally. You've done it. You've hit infinite. Is it good for you now? I wouldn't really argue that it is. So once you hit infinite, the way the game is designed right now, there's really nothing to strive for after you hit infinite. I get a lot of comments like, "Hey, I did it. I hit infinite. What do I do now?" And I'm like, you got to find a reason to continue playing, because infinite doesn't really give you a reason anymore, right? Some people like that achievement of hitting infinite, but there's no rewards. There's no rewards for hitting like 110 or 120 or anything. It's just a mindless grind. And if you keep grinding, eventually you'll hit bot territory. And is that really like the goal? Oh, my goal is to hit bots. Like, what is that? Or you just play for fun, non-competitively. This is where you can try new things. And some people do that, right? They hit infinite and they try new archetypes. They try their non-meta builds and they have fun that way, right? So that is something they can do. But a lot of people, especially competitive players, right, they don't really care about that. They just want to keep playing, keep having good competitive matches. And then also, because there's a floor with infinite, some people just abuse the MMR system by losing constantly on the infinite floor. And they just know that once the season restarts, they're going to have a lot easier matches. It's going to be easier to continue hitting infinite. And then once you're infinite the next season, now you can keep losing, keep on that floor. And it gets so problematic that if you keep losing and keep losing, you'll start fighting bots again, and then these bots will force you to win, right? So, there's bots everywhere. No matter how you're trying to do it, the new play experience is bots. The infinite player losing is bots. The infinite player winning is bots. It's like the only place where it's not bots is when you're trying to hit infinite, but then you're just fighting high level infinite players that are beating you down. So where is the matchmaking being rewarding? Where's the matchmaking being fun? It's really hard to see that. But now we talk about my experience, the high MMR experience, right? I don't have to tell you that this one is not fun. You're just fighting only bots. It's uninteresting. it diminishes the accomplishment of being high rated. I hear people saying, "Oh, Collins, he just plays bots all day. He's not very good." And I can't really argue that. Like I'm like you're kind of right. Like I'm not that I'm not that good. I'm just playing bots all day. I can't really defend myself here because it's true. So it's also hard to create good gameplay content because if I try to do gameplay videos, I'm just fighting bots and like it's hard to really give you like this is how you pilot this deck, but the bots don't know what to do. They're just throwing the games left and right. So it hurts me as a content creator because I'm so high MMR, and it's also hard to get a good read on the meta. So I do a lot of work to create my videos. I do a lot of effort, but it's more work than I need because I'm losing that effort or that experience and that learning that I would get from just playing the game because the bots don't give me a read on the meta. They don't help me. So I just have to do my own research. It makes the I guess the pre-work before I record a lot longer and I'm like it's tiring, but it just doesn't help me overall, and it also kind of hurts the viewership after a while. That one's arguable, so I'm not really gonna go into it. But some people just don't want to watch bots, and things like that, and it just hurts. So it's just not a good experience overall. It doesn't affect that many people, but that's why I want to cover the whole range of player experience so that even if this one doesn't affect you, you should have a player experience where you're like, yeah, I agree with this point. Like this is kind of my experience right now. So I would just say the high MMR experience is also not very good. Now season resets, right? You would think that season resets, they help everyone goes down to a rank and then it's a lot better, it's a lot more balanced, everyone's trying again to climb. However, that's not really the case. So even though your rank resets, your eternal MMR doesn't really reset in a meaningful way. So your eternal MMR basically gets squeezed down, but the positions are still the same. So I was highest rank last season. Even though it's squeezed out, I'm still highest rank at the beginning of the next season. So even though, hey, you're closer together, I'm still fighting bots because I'm so high in rank compared to the next highest person that's queuing that I can't get a player. So it just doesn't really solve the problem. And also because it doesn't reset, the difficulty of your opponents don't change. So basically, right, you're climbing, you hit infinite, and then you're fighting like very strong people at infinite. If once the season resets, you're fighting those same strong people. But instead of being at infinite, now you're at 70. But you're fighting very, very tough people that it's a lot harder to climb. Even though you're a good player, it's harder to climb because your opponents are at such a difficulty level that it's just going to be difficult. So it's just always going to get harder and harder. If you want the easy experience, experience of climbing, you shouldn't try to get higher rank. You want to get low rank so your opponents are harder or easier. But if you do try to climb after infinite, once it resets, you're fighting those same very hard people. And it's just very tough to climb at that point. So it doesn't feel rewarding after a reset to try climbing again because the difficulty of your opponents is so hard, right? Fighting me every day or fighting me constantly at rank 70 doesn't feel good. But there are some players that have to do that or players that I have to do that against, and they're all very difficult, right? So the way the system works, it just doesn't really feel fair, in terms of like, oh yeah, I'm rank 70, but my opponent's internal MMRs are like rank 520. Like, what is this? It just doesn't really feel weird. So the climb will only get harder and harder as you keep climbing, as you keep gaining your rank. It's just going to get more difficult. And the system wants to put you at a 50% win rate. So essentially, you're not really supposed to climb. Like the way the matchmaking works, you're not supposed to climb. You're supposed to just hover around where you get reset to. and it's just a weird system overall where you keep playing and then it gets harder, and then if you want it to be easier, you want to get infinite and then lose a ton. Like that's the optimal way of climbing. Get infinite, lose a ton, and then v against a lot easier opponents so that you can hit infinite again and then lose a ton again. Like that's like optimal if you want the easier experience, but it's not. It just doesn't feel like an elegant way of playing the game. And speaking of elegant ways, there's not really any elegant solution currently. Right? If you want to lose games, it's gonna ruin your internal MMR. It's also gonna ruin your experience, right? So I want good games. I want strong opponents. If I lose games, I lose that potential to get good, strong opponents, and my internal MMR is going to be ruined. So events like that Lunar New Year's event where it took your ranking as the a tiebreaker, if I were to lose games, I would lose that potential of being high in those type of rankings. And it is good to be high ranked, right? A lot of people will look up to you and ask you for advice, and that helps, especially as a content creator, to have that kind of notoriety. So it's just not something I want to be doing for myself, to be like, oh yeah, I want to play people. Let me just lose 300 ranks. Like, how is that something you should be telling your players, or designing a system where that's like optimal for your players to do? It just doesn't really feel elegant to me. And then resetting the season doesn't reset eternal MMR. That feels pretty weird. There's no ceiling there. So even though the season gets reset, I'm still so far away from people that I can't get people, and I mostly fight bots. That doesn't really feel elegant. And then making a new account doesn't really feel like an elegant solution, because you lose all your progress, and then a new account is basically playing bots nonstop as well for like the first 2-3 weeks, which is just like so weird to me that that happens. So there's not really any elegant solution that is in the game currently. So that's pretty weird to me. I think that could be changed. Now, where is matchmaking good? Where's matchmaking good? Or where would matchmaking be good? So this is like theoretical, right? I would say matchmaking is good if you're playing against people that you feel are in your skill bracket and level. So you're like, okay, I'm playing against people, they're doing well, but it doesn't feel like they're outpacing me. They don't always have infinite card backs, and it feels fair. It feels like I have a chance, and it feels good. So you're also getting a nice range of opponents. So I don't get a nice range of opponents. I have like 5 opponents I can fight, and if it's not that any of those 5 or so opponents, it's a bot, right? And you can get locked into brackets where you can just fight like the same like 10, 15 people and no one else, right? And that just feels weird. Since the game is trying to give you a 50% win ratio, you're not really going to move too much. So those people in your range are just going to stay in your range, and you're just only going to fight those small number of people. So I think it shouldn't be like that, where you're locked into like this bracket and you're only 5 people in that bracket. So I think if matchmaking was better, you would be able to fight more people, better range. You could see more types of compositions and deck builds and whatnot. And also when you're not getting stomped or stomping every game. So I think if you're losing every game, matchmaking is not going to feel good. And if you're winning every game, that's not going to feel good. Now, the game kind of cheats right now, where if you're losing every game, you're going to fight bots, and then you'll beat the bots, and then you'll fight a human and they'll beat you. And then you'll fight a bot, and then you'll beat the bot, and then you'll fight a human and they'll beat you. So you're basically losing to every human and then beating every bot, and they're like, it's fine, 50% win ratio. It's not. It you like if you're playing the game, like, oh wait, no, that doesn't feel good. Like, oh, I can only beat the bots. But the game does do that. The game does think that's fair. And I think you want to get opponents that you can actually defeat, right? Like that, it shouldn't be like, oh, I can only beat the bots and that's fine. So definitely would think of matchmaking is better if your opponents you don't always beat, and then your um, opponents you don't always lose to, and the bots are like irrelevant in that argument. Whether you win or lose to them. So I think that would be better. And then when is matchmaking good? Like, what scenario would I say matchmaking would be good? I'd say if, like, bots are not a large part of your games. Now this affects everyone, right? High elo, bots are a large part. Low elo, bots are a large part. Infinite floor, bots are a large part. I would like for there to be a higher chance to get players. I do think this could get alleviated once we have like dynamic global matchmaking, but right now it's not the case, and bots just feel too much of the player experience, I would say. So definitely feels weird. I know if you're climbing to infinite, like from 70 and plus, bots are not going to be a large part of your experience, but for a large or at least a decent group of player base, it is. And I definitely think that could make matchmaking better if it wasn't. Um, every deck shouldn't have to use the big bads. Every deck shouldn't have to use expensive Series 4, Series 5 cards or the same cards. If Shang-Chi is in every deck, you've got a problem, that kind of thing. So that's not really a matchmaking issue. That's more of a balance issue. And I would say the balance could be improved, right? If there was more reaction to weird metas where something is very dominating. This last patch where they buffed Thanos, which was like already the best deck, that kind of thing should be quickly reverted, right? Like, you shouldn't just be like, that's fine. You should just say, okay, we messed up here. Let's adjust, right? We looked at the data. The data was for a different time period. It's not relevant for the gameplay experience now. Let's do something. So I definitely think that would help with matchmaking. If the game was more balanced, matchmaking would feel better, right? Just genetically. And then if creativity could be rewarded, I would say that that's when matchmaking could be good. If you could theory craft a build and then play it, execute it, and it feels good, it doesn't feel like, oh, this build can't beat Shuri Galactus. Oh, I mean Shuri Thanos. Okay, it's useless. Like it, you should be able to play almost every card theoretically in a well balanced game like Marvel Snap, right? Like every card should have a place somewhere. But really, what just happens is there is the meta, and then the counter meta, and then everything else just loses to one of the two, and it just really feels like you can't really have that creativity that you want in a game like Marvel Snap, and I really think that's a shame, right? Like that it feels bad that you can't do that. Now, people always ask for solutions, right? I wasn't really gonna put a solution, but I thought about it. What are some of the solutions I think you could do? First of all, do something with the bots, right? Like do have something change with the bots. I don't know exactly how you want to change it, but I do think they are it, a problem in some aspect, right? They don't really solve perfectly what you want them to do. So I would do something. I don't know exactly what you would do with it, but I would make some change there. I think the rank should have meaning that matters. So if you're ranked 70, I think that should matter in how your matches play out, who you're playing against, right? If you're ranked 80, that should matter. If you're ranked 50, that should matter. And right now, it feels like you're ranked 70, infinite player. You're ranked, you're ranked 30 bots. Like it doesn't really have that meaning. You almost never see a person or play against a person who's ranked 10, which I feel like, why is that? Like why are they forced to fight bots if they're ranked 10? Like, let them play against other people that are ranked 10. Like I feel like that's not the end of the world there. But maybe it's just like, oh, we just want the new players to learn the game, and going up to rank 30 is fine, blah blah blah. But it just feels weird that the rank doesn't really do anything, and it's a lot of the time just the internal. I feel like reset should actually reset MMR. Now, not fully reset in that like everyone is the same, but I shouldn't start like 300 MMR over the next player or something like that, right? I think there should be a ceiling that you can have. The ceiling can be quite high, but there should be a ceiling that, okay, all the super high, the 1 to 4% infinite players, right? They can go down to that ceiling and then go from there. And then you have like a much bigger pool of players to play against, but they're good players, right? Like they've made Infinite, they should be strong. Um, it's weird that I haven't fought. There are some streamers I just haven't played at all, even though they're Infinite players, and I've never seen them. Like how, like I feels like oh they're good enough to I should be able to see them, but I can't. So that kind of thing just feels weird to me. I also think they shouldn't. You shouldn't be able to fight the same person the whole season. So like for example KM Best, right? Like I fight KM Best and I see him the whole season and I don't see anyone else. And then the season resets and I fight him and only him, until until I hit the bot territory. That feels weird. Why can't I fight other people? Like it just feels like weird that I'm stuck in these brackets of super high skilled players and I can't get anyone else. I can't. It's either super high skill try hard or no one else, and it just feels weird that the matchmaking is so close together or so bunched that there's only these small pool of people that I can play against, and even though someone might be infinite or something, I still can't fight them. So I'd like for there to be able to fight other people that are close in the skill level and things like that, and be able to have a more dynamic matchmaking. And then in terms of dynamic, I think the balancing should be more dynamic, just quicker reactions to the meta. This 1 a month patch, I really don't think is the best solution. It just seems too limiting in how much you can affect the meta in an elegant way, in a meaningful way. We knew Thanos was strong. We knew Shuri was strong. They still haven't been changed. I know the patch is coming soon, but it feels like they should have done something already. So I just think a better system. They did say they have it in place where they can do quicker balancing, but they haven't really used it since the Zabu changes. They haven't really, spruced up their skill sets, I guess, on making quick changes. So definitely feel like a more dynamic balancing would help, just making the game feel more fresh over time, because it just feels weird that okay, these are the meta and you can't do anything else and everything else loses, right? Like if you're in a situation where everything else loses, I feels like that already should be like grounds to make some changes. So overall, I know this is a long one, but I just think it's important to really fully cover matchmaking, why I think it could use some changes. And as Egg said in the beginning, why aren't people talking about it, right? Like, and I want to say, hey, I see you. Let's talk about it. So yeah, hopefully Second Dinner does something meaningful in the near future, because I do like this game. I think this game has a lot of potential, and I don't want it to be ruined or have a negative perception in the community due to something as simple as the matchmaking. So that's all I got for you today. Hope you guys learned something, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, everyone.